Week 9 in the National Football League was bittersweet for your man Louie Tee. On one end, man, I was sad. I'm not going to lie to you. We'll talk about that here in a second. But I also got some chuckles out of week number 9, man. And, we thought we were going to cap the night off with this tremendous NFC South showdown. And we got an ass whooping. And there's really only one way to describe what happened on Sunday Night Football. Damn. You got people out here dancing and eating dubs and shit. Who else could it be but me, your man, Louie Tee? Welcome to the 110th installment of the Louie Tee Network Podcast. I, of course, am your set man, Louie Tee. Thank you for joining me. Week 9, almost in the books. One more game left. We'll talk about that one later in truly garbage time. All right, but so much transpired in week 9. It was a really fascinating week of football. We're starting to continue to narrow down who the good teams are, nail it down. Like who's really a Super Bowl contender? There are playoff teams, there are non-playoff contending teams, and then there are Super Bowl contenders. They're not the same. And we're continuing on our never-ending quest to kind of narrow it down in both conferences. I've got a really good handle on who those teams are in the NFC. Not so much in the AFC. I think the AFC is so competitive. We'll talk about that here in a little bit. But I want to start off this show quickly talking about how my day went yesterday. This happens to me every year because my team stinks every year. Or as a wise man once told me, every year. So yesterday was the day I dread every year with my team. And I hope that it doesn't come in October or September, and it's coming September like it did last year at times. But I always hope that this day comes no earlier than November, and they got me to November this year, so I thank them for that. But I would like this day to come, sometime in December or January, but rarely does it ever. Anyway, every year and I talk about this. I think I've talked about this on the podcast before. You'd have to go back in the archives and dig it up. And I feel like I've talked about this before. But every year, there's that week when you finally come to the realization that your team's season is over. For me, it doesn't happen in any other sport. I don't care, if Notre Dame... They're going to go to a bowl game, more likely than not. We haven't been bad enough to miss a bowl game in years. Not since Brian Kelly's taken over, at least. There were the Tyrone Willingham years, but since Brian Kelly has taken over, and Charlie Weiss, there was some down years there too. But you're going to make it to a bowl game. And if you don't win that bowl game, who cares? Honestly, I don't care. If we're not in the playoffs, I really don't care. That's the thing about college football. If you don't make it to the playoffs, you're playing for a bowl game, cool. You'd like to win it, but you're not really, sitting there on the edge of your seat playing in the, Auto Care Wisconsin Bowl. Like, who gives a shit? In the NBA, I mean, it sucks when you want to get to the playoffs and then you get into a series and you're playing against a team and then you start to develop hate for that team. But, once the series is over, like, I'll give you an example last year. My Grizzlies, young team, no one expected them to even be in a play-in game. But there they were in the play-in game against the Blazers. And when they lost that game, it was like, damn, that sucks. But, all right, see you guys next year. Baseball. I'm a massive Braves fan. You guys know that. Told you guys that. And it sucked not going to the World Series. I thought this was our year. Shortened year, kind of funky stuff going on. That's the kind of year that we win in. Last time we won a World Series back in 95. We were coming off the baseball strike of 94. 95 was kind of a weird feeling season, and we took home the hardware. And I thought this kind of felt the same to me. It didn't happen. We lost in 7 games to the Dodgers, who eventually won the World Series. I was, all right, move on. For me, though, in football, and this is why I tell you all the time, I like the other sports I love this sport. It means more to me. So every year, and keep in mind, my baseball team was a game away from the pinnacle of the sport. They were a game away from playing in the World Series. And I was like, we'll get them next year. My team can't even make it to December playing meaningful football, and it still kills me every year. And I'm a dope because of it. I know this. I can acknowledge this, but it doesn't change the fact that it still hurts. So yesterday was the day where, unfortunately, I came to the realization that my team doesn't have a shot and our season's over. And every year when I get to that point, it's rough. There's like a 3-4 hour period where I'm there, but I'm not there. And my girl was talking to me yesterday and she's like, what is wrong with you? I don't like your energy right now. I'm going upstairs. And I'm like, don't leave. But she left me. And you know what? I was fine. Because I was still in my funk. I did the Washington overtime video. And then I was watching the Cowboys Steelers, and the Cowboys are fighting like hell against the Steelers. And I'm watching the Cardinals and Dolphins and the Raiders and the Chargers on the other screen. And all this football is going on around me. And I'm watching and I'm taking it in. And I'm watching the Raiders, and they've got a shot. And I'm watching both the Cardinals and the Dolphins, and they got a shot. I'm watching the Steelers, and they're undefeated, and they got a shot. And I'm saying to myself, this sucks. And I'm just sitting there. My son's sitting next to me. He didn't have a care in the world. He didn't know what the hell's going on. And I'm just in a mood, And it happens every year. Like a piece of me dies. It's like a cartoon piece, though. I get more of these lives. Because next year, they're going to kill that life again. And then I'll get it back. I get it back in August. But I sat there and I came to the realization after, and really it happened during the game. When Kyle Allen went down, and some Washington fans are just killing me today. And that's fine. I don't care. They're absolutely crucifying me because I'm building Kyle Allen up to be this mythical figure. And I'm not trying to do that. He just gave us the best chance to win. At my core, all I want to do is win. That's it. I don't have favorites. Sure, I'd like to have a franchise quarterback at this point and have that guy be leading us to some wins and giving us hope. I'd rather be Cincinnati right now. Absolutely. You got your guy. You're losing games close. I'd rather be the Chargers right now, even though there's heartbreak every single week. At least they know they've got their guy. And they're going down every week swinging with their guy. I'd love to be one of those two teams because that's fun. Even if I know my season's done, that's fun. I'm growing with a young quarterback that I know is going to be here for a while. I don't have that in Washington. I never have that in Washington. Ever. I never have it. So every year when I get to this point when I recognize that the season's done, that little piece of me that I get in August, it dies. And it takes me about a good 3-4 hours to get over it. And then I'm fine. I'm good. Let's move on. I'm used to this. It should take less time each time, but it never does. It should. You've been losing for 20 years, 30 years. It should take you 5 minutes. Get over it. You should be used to this. It never gets old. Anyway, yesterday was the day I realized, because I've been fighting off Washington fans all year. Been fighting them all year. We're not going to have a top 5 pick. We're not going to be as terrible as you think. Yesterday was the day I finally conceded, and I'm ready to stop fighting. I don't believe in Alex Smith. At this point, why not? I thought all along they didn't want Dwayne. Like, there was no hope for him. I'm listening to Ron Rivera talk, and it sounds like maybe he was trying to teach him a lesson, which I'm like, if that's the case, and because Kyle Allen gave us the best chance to win, he's no longer available, put Dwayne back in. What the hell are we doing then? If you really think that, and now his thing is, we want Dwayne to learn how to prepare from a professional like Alex Smith. Okay, whatever. At this point, I don't care because I don't think the future of the franchise is on the roster anyway. So I don't really care. So that was my day yesterday. But then I got to Sunday night. And, I kind of snapped out of it. I told my girl, come back downstairs. Come watch the game with me. Don't leave me down there by myself. I need you right now. I'm very vulnerable. No, I'm serious. I wasn't vulnerable. I was like, come on downstairs, man. Watch this game. It's going to be a good game, Saints. She was like, yeah, that is going to be a good game. I'm coming. So we get downstairs, and then that shit happens. And I don't know why, but it just brought a big shit-eating grin to my face. Because for as bad as it's been this year, for my team, and look, I told my man Ree and Atlas and all of those Bucs fans last night, it's okay. It's not the end of the world. You're 6-3. You're going to the playoffs. You're going to be in the discussion at the end of the year when it comes to Super Bowl competitors and Super Bowl contenders. Okay? This one game doesn't define your season. We've seen teams get their asses handed to them in season and still go on to win the Super Bowl. I don't think that's happening with Tampa, but you'll be in the conversation when it's all said and done. This one game isn't going to define your season. However, when you're a loser, you try to find ways to take solace in things that have nothing to do with you. Last night, the only thing I could think of at that moment was, man, this is a brutal ass whooping here. We've lost 6 games this season. We ain't never got our ass whooped like that before. And it has nothing to do, Tampa, the New Orleans Saints, they have nothing to do with what I got going on. Nothing to do with the NFC East. That was their own family business that they decided to handle in a very violent way that forced the authorities to be called out to Raymond James Stadium. That's their prerogative. I have nothing to do with that. But the only thing I could think of was, man, as bad as it's been in Washington this year, it ain't never been that bad. Yikes. I digress. Let's get to my gem dropping session today, shall we? I think we shall. Let me drop this gem on your melon. Open your mind, let your conscience be free. You're now rolling with your man, Louie Tee. Let me open you up. Get you thinking a little bit. So, I was reading through my tweets, and I do this periodically because I'm not on Twitter a ton. I try to stay off of socials. There's a lot of bullshit that goes on socials, man. If you're living your life on socials, you're living a lie. Be honest with yourself. Okay, it's a lot of negativity on socials too, man. So you got to make sure you navigate your way through the nonsense because it's a lot of it up there. And if you allow it to suck you in, you could go down a really, really big, dark, black hole. Or a rabbit hole. Facebook to me is like a rabbit hole. You can get sucked in real quick. Oh man, I haven't seen this person since the 8th grade. Man, I haven't seen this person since I graduated from high school. And next thing you know, you're sorting through their pictures and you're like, wait a minute, what am I doing? I just wasted 15 minutes of my life I can't get back. Let me close this app. So I try not to get on socials too often. But every now and again, because of what I do, I have to get on socials and look through the comments, make sure I respond to people. So I was on Twitter the other day and I'm looking at the NFL. And they're talking about potentially expanding the postseason to 8 teams in each conference this year. Yeah, in season, they're thinking about making an alteration to what they've already made an alteration to, which is 7 teams in the postseason this year. Now they're thinking about expanding it to 8. And that's a real discussion that's ongoing right now. And there's only one reason for it. More revenue. The more teams in the playoffs, the more money there is to be made. Now, maybe they'll decide if they go to 8, we'll go with 2 bye weeks like we traditionally have in the past. And we'll still only have the amount of games, that triple header that we're all excited about. We'll still have that. But there won't be another game really added to the mix. But there's this. If you add an 8th team and you add another bye week, there is another game. You'll get 2 triple headers because you'll have 3 in wildcard weekend, and then you'll have 3 more games in the divisional round. So you'll have that triple header. So you're adding 2 more games. So anytime the NFL can add more revenue And that's what adding one playoff game with the seventh seventh team in each conference does. It adds another playoff game in each conference. So 2 additional games for the NFL. You'd be adding 4 additional games to the postseason if you add 8 teams. So that's something they're throwing around. And that got me to thinking, if they expand the playoffs to 8 teams for this season, I don't know if that would be something that would be a permanent fixture moving forward in the postseason. I'm an old curmudgeon. I'm a traditionalist. 6 is perfect because I don't feel like I need to reward mediocrity. I don't need to reward the 8-8 team and let them in. I don't need a 7-9 team backdooring their way into the postseason, which is a realistic possibility in the NFC if you were to expand to 8. We can barely get 7 teams in here as it is. You make it 8 now, and now you're letting somebody in that has absolutely zero business being in the postseason, like the 49ers, for instance. That's how bad, at least in the AFC, if you go to 8, you'll get 8 quality teams. I mean, let's go through the AFC and the NFC real quick. And we did this last night on the overtime show of Saints and Bucks, where we talked about the shift in the power kind of in the NFL right now, where the NFC's been the powerhouse, outside of New England in the AFC. And then you started seeing Kansas City come on of late, and there's the Baltimore factor. But really the powers that be have resided in the NFC for years. At least the most competitive side of things. San Francisco here lately. The Saints have been good every year for the last 5 years. The Rams are a team that has been to the Super Bowl, been in the playoffs a few years here. Green Bay, when Rodgers is right, they're going to be a problem. And so you just keep going down the list. Minnesota has inserted themselves here recently. You go back to when Atlanta had it going, and then even Carolina had that massive year in 2015. Atlanta followed that up with a massive year in 2016. And you see how this thing was going. It was always in the NFC. San Francisco had the massive year last year. It's always in the NFC. So now it's feeling like a little bit of a shift. Now the AFC looks like the powerhouse conference, and the NFC is just struggling and fighting to stay above water. So when you look at the AFC, you got a solid 9 teams competing for what is 7 spots right now. And it's nice and clean in the AFC. Things are all mucky and dirty in the NFC. I'll explain that here in a second. So in the AFC, you've got Pittsburgh, Kansas City. All right, so Pittsburgh's your 1 seed, Kansas City's your 2 seed, Buffalo's your 3 seed, Tennessee's your 4 seed. Those are all division winners. It's nice and clean. It's easy to digest. You understand that. You look at it and you say, okay, those are your 4 best records. And also, those are your 4 division winners. So it's clean. It's easy to digest. You see it right in front of your face. Then you get Baltimore as a 5, Vegas is 6, Miami is 7, and then Cleveland on the outside looking in. If the playoffs started today, those would be your 7 playoff teams. And you cut it off right there and you say Cleveland and Indianapolis, thanks for playing. See you next time. And all of these teams, after you get past Baltimore, who's 6-2, Vegas, Miami, Cleveland, and Indianapolis, 4 teams, all 5-3, they're all quality football teams. So you're looking at 2 spots, 4 teams for 2 spots right now. And that thing, look, we got plenty of football left. I just told you that all of those teams are 5-3. That means there's 8 games left. 2 of those teams could fall by the wayside over the next month or 2. So there's plenty of football left to be played, but that just goes to show you how tough things are in the AFC right now. Meanwhile, in the NFC, New Orleans is one. First of all, let me just state this. You got 2 8-win teams and a 7-win team at the top of the AFC conference. So you got an 8-0, an 8-1, and a 7-2 at the top of their conference. So that's strong, man. That's that's strong. All right, but in the NFC, you don't have a team with 7 wins to their name yet. You got 6-2 New Orleans at the top of this conference, followed by 6-2 Seattle. Then you've got a 6-2 Green Bay. You've got 6-3 Tampa at 4, but Tampa can't be 4. Why? Because you got to insert stinking ass 3-4-1 Philadelphia. See, that's why I told you it's all mucky and nasty and dirty. Because anytime you look at the playoff picture in the NFC, it's like, which one of these teams doesn't belong? And it's not hard to figure out which one doesn't belong, but they have to have a spot. You have to save a spot for them. They have to have a seat at the table. So you'd insert Philadelphia here as your 4. Tampa would kick back to 5. Arizona would then kick back to 6. And then the Rams would kick back to 7 with Chicago on the outside looking in as your number 8 right now. So if the NFL decided to expand, you'd be able to include Chicago, and that would be it. But Chicago's struggling. They've lost 3 straight. They can't score. We'll talk about them here in a second. So the NFC is mucky. It's nasty. It's dirty. But, it is what it is. I don't think they need to expand to 8, but they're not thinking about it from a product standpoint, because they know dummies like me and potentially people out there like you will watch anyway. Hey, you're an idiot. You love the NFL. You'll watch. Even if the last team in the NFC is 7-9, you'll watch it. You can't get enough of this stuff, and we know it. We have crack. We have crack, and you're addicted. So we're going to serve it up. And we'll eat it up. Oh, we get an extra game. I don't need to see the Bears at 7-9 or the 49ers at 7-9 get into the playoffs backdoor style. I don't need to see it. I don't need to watch them get destroyed by Green Bay in the first round. I don't need to watch that. I'm good. I'll pass on that. Thanks, though. I don't need to see Seattle host Chicago in Seattle and run those boys 37, because even Seattle, who can't stop anybody, can stop Chicago's offense. And in Chicago, even though they are capable of stopping and slowing down Seattle's offense, they'll score enough points to beat the Bears. I don't need to see that. I don't need to see it. I'm good. I appreciate the offer, but I'm good. So it'll be interesting to see what the NFL decides to do. And we'll have a conversation down the road about the AFC shifting to the power side of things and the NFC kind of taking a step back. It was last night we kind of started that conversation on Sunday Night Overtime about, is this something that's a permanent shift? Are we seeing the AFC now start to take a step forward? And my argument was, this is something that could really be happening before our very eyes, because the young, talented quarterbacks are all on the AFC side of the bracket. And that's the thing that's scary for the NFC right now, is that when you look out west, Joe Burrow looks legit. Justin Herbert looks legit. We know Patrick Mahomes isn't going anywhere, and he's young. We know Lamar Jackson isn't going anywhere, and he's young. When you look at all the young, talented passers in this league, most of them reside in the AFC. Tua looks good. It's early. He's playing good complementary football. He's not turning it over. He's giving his team a chance, although he could have thrown about 2 interceptions if the Cardinals could catch yesterday. All of the young talent at quarterback looks to be in the AFC. Whereas you look at the NFC, we got a bunch of old farts running around trying to hang on. There's 1 or 2 of those in the AFC, like Phillip Rivers in Indianapolis and Ben Roethlisberger in Pittsburgh. But for the most part, you look around, even Derek Carr isn't that old. Derek Carr is barely 30. Like, a lot of those guys, even Tannehill, barely 30. Like, there's not a bunch of old curmudgeons out there, where in the NFC, we got a bunch of old guys hanging on for dear life. You got Kyler Murray, but after that, you got Drew Brees, you got Aaron Rodgers, you got Tom Brady. Like, they were just waiting for these guys to go away. That's essentially what we're doing right now. Nicholas Foles, what the hell are the Bears doing? We don't know what they're doing. They don't believe in Mitchell Trubisky, and we get it. So there's not a lot. There's just Russell Wilson really out here. Wentz was supposed to be a part of this discussion along with Kyler Murray. He's not right now. So there's not much to get excited about on this side of the bracket, but that's another discussion for another day. Let's go slate skate. Let's go put our skates on and go around the National Football League in week number 9 in a way that I like to call slate skate. Let's do it. So, Thursday Night Football, we already got that out of the way. Packers taking care of business over the San Francisco 49ers, 34-17. Let's jump into Sunday's action. We start at Jacksonville, where the Houston Texans traveled to Jacksonville to take on the Gardner Minshew-less Jacksonville Jaguars in a little bit of AFC South family business. This one went the way that I thought, although I was surprised at how Jacksonville hung in. And it was funny. We had a conversation last night on Overtime about, if you just inserted Aaron Rodgers to every team in the league, how would teams fare? And I told you, all these bad teams are really just missing one main ingredient. It's like there's a common thread with most of these teams. You know, not the Atlantas or the Minnesotas necessarily. But, you know, you go around and you look at a lot of these bad teams that are 1 and whatever, 2 and whatever. A lot of times it's just the quarterback. Like Jacksonville, they hung tough in this game. Now, their defense has been putrid this year. I don't really know if it matters if you insert Aaron Rodgers, because Aaron Rodgers doesn't play defense. And they gave up at one point during their 7-game losing streak. They'd given up 30-plus points in every single loss. This was the first time that they had lost this season and not given up 30-plus points. They give up 27 here in a 27-25 loss at home to Houston. This was a fun game to watch, though, because literally three plays in, Jacksonville has a 73-yard touchdown. All right, Jake Luton, I told you he was starting. Their 6th or 7th round pick out of Oregon State, the big, tall, 6'6" kid that can throw it. A little bit of an athlete, too. He's not a tremendous athlete, but he can move enough that he's not a statue back there. Big, skinny kid, though, but he can throw it. And on that 73-yarder, man, was that thing put on the money. See, and DJ Chark runs it down and gets in the end zone. And just like that, it's 7-0. His second throw of his NFL career. It's amazing. And then Houston comes right back. 3 plays after that touchdown. A simple, what looks like a simple, screen to Brandon Cooks. They get a couple blockers out in front. They throw like a little out route to him and get a couple guys up the field. He turns up the sidelines and where the hell's the defense? There's nobody home, and he takes off, and that's like a 65-yard touchdown. And just like that, it's 7-7. I'm like, well, shit, saddle up. We got us a ball game here. We about to have a shootout. Things settled down, but it was back and forth. It was tit for tat. Finally, Houston pulls away. Looks like they're going to win this thing comfortably. It's 27-16. I said Jake Luton and company, they're not coming back. And then they just slowly whittle away at this lead. And that's what the bad teams don't know, how to put other bad teams away. So they get a field goal. It's now 27-19. And then they get a touchdown and they got to go for 2. And they don't get the 2-point conversion. And Houston holds on 27-25. David Johnson goes down in this game to a concussion. He's in the protocol right now. Duke Johnson stepped up massively in this game. I still can't believe that the Texans didn't trade any of their assets. There's just so many guys that could be helping other NFL teams right now that are going to rot away in 2020 for no apparent reason other than teams weren't willing to give up what it was going to take to get some of these guys that could help them win a chip. I just don't understand. I'm looking at Randall Cobb. I'm looking at Duke Johnson in this game. I'm looking at Will Fuller, who caught a 77-yard touchdown. You think Green Bay can't use Will Fuller right now? Are you serious? He catches a 77-yarder for a touchdown in this game. He's, to me, the one of the best deep ball explosive players in our game right now. The Packers couldn't use that opposite of Devontae Adams? Seriously? And I'm watching all these guys and I'm saying, they're not going to help anybody. They should be helping an NFL team this year. Duke Johnson was outstanding in this game. Anyway, the Texans get their second win of the season. They're 2-6. Coincidentally enough, similar to the Giants, their 2 wins have come against the same exact team, the Jacksonville Jaguars, who are now 1-7 on the season. Speaking of the Giants go to Washington and complete the season sweep 23-20. I started the show talking about how this put me in a 3-hour spell, a funk, if you will. This one hurt because Washington loses their quarterback, Kyle Allen, who was just starting to really play some competent football and understanding what this team needed at this time. He was the perfect quarterback for what they were going to try to do the remainder of the season. He's now gone, lost to a broken ankle. Washington made too many mistakes, though. Before Allen got injured, they had already turned the football over twice and couldn't get out of their own way. Washington would go on to turn it over 5 times, 3 of which came off of the right arm of backup quarterback Alex Smith, who actually played well in the second half. But the 2 turnovers on back-to-back possessions at the end of the game were soul-crushing. For as good as he played and as much ground as he made up, the Washington was down 20-3. They were being thoroughly dominated in the first half of this game. And again, the turnovers were the story. They couldn't get off the field on third downs. They couldn't stop the Giants offensively. And then the second half happened. Washington won the toss, deferred to the second half. They take the opening kickoff of the second half and march it 75 yards in 7 plays, score a touchdown. And from that point forward, they gained the confidence necessary to come back and win this game. And I had said all along that Washington was the better team, but the turnovers, we call that the great equalizer. And when you turn it over 5 times and you don't get one back in return, you're asking for a loss. Now, normally you turn it over 5 times, you're asking for a blowout loss. But here we were at the end of this game with a chance. We were damn near in field goal range, and Alex Smith makes a very ill-advised throw. It's picked off. And then the defense steps up, should have forced a turnover, should have forced a fumble of Daniel Jones, but that they're not there yet. So they get the stop necessary to get the ball back to the offense. And Alex Smith has a timeout in his back pocket, about 1:30 left. Plenty of time to at least get in the field goal range. He throws another back-breaking interception, and the Giants hold on for their second win of the season, both coming against Washington, 23-20. This was it for me. The competitive portion of the season is officially done. Washington is dead now, even though they're only 1 game back in the win column in this ridiculously wacky NFC East division. It doesn't matter. They're not good enough to get it done. They're not good enough to string together consecutive wins or anything that it's going to take for them to be a viable option in this division. Now the question becomes, who's the guy at quarterback? So many questions, not enough answers. They're going to go with Alex Smith in the interim, but at some point, if Ron Rivera is serious about figuring out if Dwayne Haskins is the guy or not, he'll put him back in. If they really, and I thought all along that they were done with Dwayne, they wanted nothing to do with him. That was the report coming out of Washington. Doesn't seem like that's true. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what the hell. I don't know if I'm coming or going. I don't know if Ron knows if he's coming or going. And so the Giants are now 2-7. Washington's 2-6, and that's the nail in the coffin for Washington this season in terms of the division. Baltimore at Indianapolis. I knew this game was going to be exactly the way that it went. I thought that you had 2 of the better defensive football teams in the league squaring off, so I didn't expect a bunch of points to be scored. And I got exactly what I bargained for. I thought the Colts got jobbed here on one particular play that really, I don't want to say it changed the momentum of this game, because they were struggling offensively in the second half. The Colts had 2 plays that really 3 plays that defined them in this game and really hurt them. They're up 7-0. Early stages of the second. They're dominating defensively. Lamar Jackson can do nothing. They're trying to run it with him. They're not having it. They're trying to throw it. They're not. I told you, Matt Eberflus will be a head coach in this league. He is coaching the hell out of these boys in Indianapolis. I keep telling you guys this. So I knew they were going to shut Lamar Jackson down for the most part, especially early when they had some momentum. Anyway, they're up 7-0 are the Colts, and they got great field position, and they're looking to drive. And one of the knocks on their rookie running back, Jonathan Taylor, out of Wisconsin, was he had a fumbling issue. This is a guy that fumbled like 18 times at Wisconsin in 3 years. It was some ridiculous number. And it reared its ugly head in one of the most inopportune times, because you got all the momentum. Worst thing you could do in that situation is punt. That's what you want to do, punt. If we're not going to score a punt, force them to go 90 yards to score a touchdown. Against this defense, it's not happening right now. Instead, he fumbles the ball. Chuck Clark scoops it up, runs it about 55, 60 yards the other way, jumps over Phillip Rivers. Don't ask me what the hell Phillip Rivers was doing on that play. He falls down, then reaches up like he's got dragon arms, kangaroo arms, and he jumps over him and scores a touchdown. And from that point forward, the Ravens dominated the game. And when I say dominate, I use that term loosely, because it's not like they ran away and hid 31-7. This game was 7-7. Then it was 10-7. Then it was 17-7. And then, they could never quite get where they needed to be in this game. Or it wasn't 10, it was 14-7. And then it ended up being 21-10. And then there was an interception by Marcus Peters that was not an interception. And when Harbaugh challenged it, I'm like, what are you doing, man? You trying to throw away a timeout here? And then the referee comes back and says he made a football move. He took 3 steps. There was no football. He was falling down. The 3 steps was a product of him falling down. He never completed the catch. He never tucked the ball away or anything like that. How is that an interception? Unbelievable. They're so confused as to what's a catch and what constitutes possession. It's not even funny. They have no idea what a catch is still. That was a farce. And that had come off after the defense had made this tremendous stop where DeForest Buckner, who's just an animal, an uncaged beast that they traded for in the offseason, forces a fumble of one of the backs. I don't remember if it was Gus Edwards or J.K. Dobbins, but he busts through the line, knocks the football free. It's scooped up by Darius Leonard. Never, ever trust a man with 2 first names, who then fumbles the ball, and then it's caught in the air by Bobby Okereke, and the Colts now are in business. They got all the momentum. They just stopped the Ravens, who were going in for a touchdown, and now they got some field position, and the first throw, Phillip Rivers throws it downfield, and it gets picked off, or they say it got picked off. It was incomplete. And the Ravens, took advantage of that opportunity. Like, that's a bad call by the officials, but that's no here nor there. The real story here is the Ravens held the Colts without a first down until the 11-minute mark of the fourth quarter in the second half. There was not a single first down in the third quarter, and it wasn't until the 11-minute mark of the fourth quarter that they were able to execute a first down. The Colts could do nothing in the second half of this game offensively. Then they finally try to get back in the game. They're down 21-10. They drive it down the field. They need 2 scores. It's 4th and inches at the Baltimore 13-yard line, and instead of kicking a field goal, they go for it. I didn't like the play call. I don't have a problem with them going for it there because in their mind, they're saying, of the 2 things that we need to do, the hardest of those 2 is going to be score the touchdown, get the 2-point conversion. So let's get that out of the way now because we're close. We're here. I didn't like the play call. They went bootleg with Phillip Rivers. Nobody was open. Phillip Rivers isn't running away from anyone. He had to throw it up for grabs. It's incomplete. They turned over the ball on downs, and at that point, Baltimore runs it down their throat and gets a field goal and wins this football game 24-10. So really 3 plays: the fumble, the interception, and the 4th and inches call really were what doomed the Colts in this game. They couldn't execute offensively. They missed a healthy, even though he hasn't been impactful this year, he still changes the way you defend the Colts. They miss a healthy T.Y. Hilton. But Eugene is never healthy. So anyway, this was the defensive struggle that I thought I was going to sit down and watch, and it was a fun one. But the Baltimore Ravens, they continue to force turnovers. They continue to take advantage of those turnovers, and they win this game 24-10. They go to 6-2 on the season, and now Indianapolis is 5-3. Detroit at Minnesota, NFC North family business. You know how the family do it. Minnesota dominant in this game. The score really doesn't indicate how much of an ass thrashing this was. 34-20. Vikings are your winners, and now they're starting to heat up, are the Minnesota Vikings, and it's crazy when you look at their season. You look at 2 games in particular, and you think to yourself, they easily could be the inverse of what they are right now. They're 3-5. They probably should be 5-3. They should have beat Tennessee, and they should have beat Seattle. They should be 5-3, no worse than 5-3 right now. This isn't a bad football team, similar to the way I feel about Atlanta. But you are what your record says you are, and that's the bottom line. But they were dominant in this game, and I figured they could be because I don't believe in Detroit. You know how I feel about the Detroit Lions. Matthew Stafford was awful in this week, and you might be able to chalk some of that up to a lack of practice and him being in the COVID protocol this week, but he wasn't good. Two interceptions thrown in the end zone on back-to-back possessions to linebackers. One wasn't in the end zone. The first one to Eric Wilson was not. The second one to Kendricks was, and you just can't do that. And he was awful. He gets knocked out of the game. Was in the concussion protocol. Ended up passing the test. But bottom line is, this was about Dalvin Cook and the Vikings offense. They were special in this game. Dalvin Cook he's cooking right now. He is absolutely tearing shit up. And him and Aaron Jones are 2 of my favorite running backs in the league. And they're very similar in how they run the football and their explosiveness. But man, it's Dalvin Cook. When he's healthy, when he's right, man, is he special. he was outstanding. Had a 70-yard touchdown run in this game. Over 200 yards of all-purpose offense for him in this game. He was dumb. Dalvin Cook was dumb in this game. And he has been for the last couple of weeks, which is why the Packers are 2-0 in their last two games. And more importantly, against NFC North opponents in Green Bay and now Detroit. If they expand this thing to 8 playoff teams, don't sleep on Minnesota or Atlanta, who are both 3-win teams at the current moment. This was a fun one for Minnesota, and it's the recipe that they need for Kirk Cousins. Kirk threw it 14 times last week. He threw it right around 20 this game. Like, they're not asking him to do a ton. That's what they want to do. They want it, on a Mike Zimmer coached football team. He doesn't want his quarterback throwing it 35, 40, 45 times. He wants his running back toting the rock and his quarterback making plays off of the run. That's what they want to do. And that's what they've done the last 2 weeks. And coincidentally enough, they've been wins. So they take care of business in this game. 34-20. Both teams leave this game at 3-5. One team's 3-5 is trending upwards in Minnesota. The other team's 3-5 is trending downward in Detroit. After getting back to 500 at 3-3 on the season with 2 straight wins, they're now 3-5 after 2 straight losses. Chicago at Tennessee. This was a matchup between, again, 2 teams that I didn't expect a ton of points from, mainly because, and for 2 different reasons. You know, like the Baltimore-Indianapolis game, you're looking at 2 stellar defenses. That's why you didn't expect a bunch of points. In this game here, I wasn't expecting a bunch of points because Chicago can't score any, and Tennessee wasn't going to score a bunch against Chicago's defense. So I was expecting a low-scoring game, and that's exactly what I got. At one point, we're in the fourth quarter, and this thing was 17-3. So there wasn't a bunch of fireworks in this game. Chicago's offense is so putrid. It's so gross. Oh, my God. It's hard to watch sometimes. I feel so bad. I wish somebody would rescue Allen Robinson. If I'm Allen Robinson, I don't even want a contract offer from the Bears. I just want to go. Just let me go, please. He's so good. He made a ridiculous catch in this game, and I'm saying, and they keep showing him on the sidelines, and he looks like a guy that just wants help. Help me. Help me. He's trapped. This guy is a bona fide number one wide receiver that should be getting 15 targets a game, no less than 8 catches a game, and averaging somewhere between 90 to 125 yards a game. And because this offense is so trifling, this guy's, at one point in this game, he had 1 catch for 4 yards. And we were in the second half. It's ridiculous. It's obscene watching him struggle the way that he's struggling, because I know this guy's capable. I've watched him do it with Blake Bortles. I know what he's capable of. He needs to get on the Larry Fitzgerald plan, or DeAndre Hopkins plan. Find a way to find yourself to get a good quarterback. And I remember for years watching Larry struggle through all these garbage quarterbacks and watching DeAndre Hopkins struggle through Tom Macho Man, Randy Savage, and all of these bum-ass quarterbacks, Brock Osweiler, B.O., and somehow he managed to get 1,200 yards receiving. And eventually he got to Deshaun Watson. And eventually Larry Fitzgerald got to Kurt Warner, and Carson Palmer. At some point, Allen Robinson deserves to find a home with a real NFL passer. He deserves it. He's been through enough. Free him. Anyway, the offense was awful again for Chicago. Tennessee used the defense in this game. They just acquired Desmond King at the trade deadline. I don't know if we talked about that here on the podcast, but that was one of the few trades that did take place. And he scoops up a fumble and runs for a touchdown in this game. Welcome to Tennessee, Desmond. It wasn't a massive game for their offense. They just needed to not F it up because of how anemic Chicago's offense was. Just don't give them short fields. Just don't make the mistake that's going to give them a chance to win. And that's essentially what Tennessee did. They just got out of the way offensively and let the defense handle their business. And they get away with a 24-17 victory. It wasn't pretty by any stretch of the imagination, but a win's a win in the National Football League. They take care of business, run their record to 6-2, remain atop the AFC South, and that's a big win because now they're going to see Indianapolis on Thursday Night Football. That's going to be a massive showdown. Can't wait to watch that one because Indianapolis is fully capable of taking down the Tennessee Titans and evening up those records at 7 or 6-3, excuse me. So that's going to be a fascinating game. Meanwhile, Chicago is on a downward spiral after starting the season off 5-1. They've lost 3 straight. They've lost 4 out of their last 5, and now they're 5-4 on the season. And if they don't get some kind of help offensively, and I don't know how you inject life. I was a Mitchell Trubisky fan, and I said the one thing Mitchell Trubisky gives you, and remember when they benched Mitchell, they were 2-0, even though they were 2-0 because Nicholas Foles came in and saved them versus Atlanta. Still, Mitchell adds the element of his legs. They're missing that with this offense. Nicholas Foles isn't running anywhere. They're struggling. They need help, and maybe going back to Mitchell is the answer. I don't know, but at this point, you can't just keep it the way it is because you're not going to win many more games with the way your offense is struggling. You're just not. Anyway, they're 5-4. They lose their 3rd straight, do the Bears, and they need help offensively. Carolina at the Kansas City Chiefs. This was a fun one. Man, I didn't know what I was signing up for when I got to this one, but the Panthers never cease to amaze me. Every time I leave them for dead, they have one of these performances that says, hey, don't do us like that. And this was another one of those games where I said, wow. I told you they were going to struggle this year. I thought they would be worse than 3-6. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not going to sit here and act as if I thought they would. And remember, this 3-6 was once 3-2. They've lost 4 straight. Okay, they were over 500 at one point. They've lost 4 straight, have the Panthers. So this is a team that was playing exceptional football, that had won 3 in a row after an 0-2 start, that went to the Chargers and won, that found a way to beat the Arizona Cardinals at home. Like, this is a team that was playing really good football, went to Atlanta and won. And then they lost 4 straight, and they came back crashing to reality. But it's games like this that remind you, hey, look, just because we're 3-6 doesn't mean we're trash. We'll beat your ass if your team's not any good. And they did everything. They had a fake punt in this game that they executed. For the first half of this game, they were all over Mahomes. They were flustering him. They were flushing him from the pocket. They were making him uncomfortable. They were doing all of the things that you have to do to give yourself a chance against Kansas City on the road. And the other piece of that puzzle is that you got to score touchdowns. They were doing that too. And, you looked up at one point in this game and they were up. They were up big. They were up 17-7. And I'm like, huh? What is going on here? And I was watching the game, but I still was in disbelief. But as per usual, the Chiefs figured it out. And Christian McCaffrey looked good. And it was for a limited time only. It looks like he's got a shoulder injury, and they don't think he's going to play in week number 10. But we'll see. But he looked good, and he came back, and he was firing on all cylinders, as we knew he would. But as the Chiefs, per usual, do, they started finding their playmakers. Kelsey goes off. I think he ended up having like 9 or 10 catches for a buck and some change. They had no answers for Tyreek Hill. They're a young defense in Carolina, so they're prone to mistakes. They're prone to blown coverages, guys running free. If you don't get to the quarterback, somebody's going to get free in the secondary. But they got a guy, John Franklin, that they're just using. He's just running around doing stuff. And he was running around making plays, and they were hanging tough. But again, there's only so much chicanery, trickery, and all of that stuff. There's only so much of that you can do before you actually have to go out and execute and stop the Chiefs. Like, at some point, you actually have to deal with the Chiefs and all of their weapons. Yep, you can do the fake punt thing, and yep, your offense can try to keep their offense off the field by sustaining drives and scoring touchdowns. But at some point, you got to actually deal with Mahomes, Kelsey, and Hill. Sprinkle in a little bit of Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Le'Veon Bell, L.Bell. And so at some point, you got to deal with all of these guys. And if you don't have the horses to be able to do that, or to just keep scoring, which the Panthers had a little bit of a lull in this game that allowed Kansas City to not only catch them, and you know the rules, you even, we leaving. They got even, they left them 21-17. They pushed that lead out to 28-17. I said, okay, now they're about to go run these boys. And then the Panthers was like, nah, not exactly. Not going away that easily. And they continued to fight. They continued to scratch and claw. And they found themselves right back in this game. You know, at 33-31 after a late touchdown. I was like, wow, these guys won't go away. And luckily enough for the Chiefs, they were able to get the stop at the end of the game, preserve the victory, and win this thing 33-31. It's not always pretty with the Chiefs, but they know how to get it done. You know, they're just cruising through the regular season. They're just trying to get to the postseason. That's essentially where they are right now. They're 8-1. I told you, I don't know if I've ever seen a quieter 8-1 start to a season from a defending Super Bowl. We've seen quieter 8-1 starts from teams that you don't maybe believe in. This is a Super Bowl defending champion we're talking about here with the best player on the planet at quarterback, and we're not talking about the Chiefs for whatever reason. But they're fine with it. Trust me. They're okay with you not talking about them. You talking about Pittsburgh, or you talking about Aaron Rodgers winning the MVP or Russell Wilson winning the MVP. They're perfectly fine with you omitting their guy for MVP because you don't want to keep giving it to him every year. They're perfectly fine with you forgetting about them. But again, just like the Panthers had to realize, at some point, whether you love them, hate them, or indifferent, you're going to have to deal with the Chiefs. Okay? At some point, you're going to have to deal with them. And they get it done again. They're now 8-1 on the season after the 33-31 win. And the Panthers, tough luck because, again, they were ultra competitive, but just not good enough. They lose their fourth straight. They're now 3-6 on the season. Seattle at Buffalo. This is the one that made me want to throw up on Sunday because I saw this coming a mile away. I told you guys this on Friday. I'm going to grow a pair. The rest of the season, if I go out, I'm going out in a blaze of glory. I think I do this every year because I see shit. I see it, and I don't have the balls to pull the trigger because at times I can be a bitch. And this was one of the, I told y'all I was going to be mad. I told y'all I was going to be pissed off if I lost this game because I saw this shit coming. I knew Seattle wasn't going to Buffalo and winning. I said, they can't stop Buffalo's offense. But the thing that scared me, and I told you this on Friday, was I looked at the laundry list of injuries and I said, I don't know who's playing. And if I just could get to Friday, and I don't have that luxury, I got to make my picks by Thursday. If I could have just gotten to Friday and understood and had a clearer picture of John Brown's going to play. You know, this guy's going to play. This guy's going to play. This guy's going to play. I would have taken the Bills because I knew they were capable. Because Seattle can't stop anybody. And that Bills offense is explosive and dynamic. And Josh Allen went off. He went off. They were up 17-0. And I kept waiting for Russ to cook. I kept waiting for it. And they got as close as 24-17. I think that's what the score was. I think they got to within 7. And I said, here they come. Here comes Russ and company. And I think they got it to 20. They might have gotten it to 24-20. Maybe. And then Josh Allen and company went apeshit. They went nuts. Touchdown. Picked off Russ. Forced a fumble of Russ. Touchdown. Next thing you know, you blinked twice and it was 41-20. And I saw it coming, man. They jumped these boys early. It was 17-0. I'm like, damn, I thought we were getting a shootout. I said, hey, and that's the thing that I was holding on to was, nope, I know they can't stop Buffalo, but Buffalo's defense hasn't impressed me this year. I'm not sure they can stop Seattle's offense. But Seattle couldn't get it going early. And you got to give their defense some credit. They got after Russ. They hit Russ. They really befuddled Russ. There were some defensive breakdowns. They gave up an easy touchdown to David Moore in the end zone late in the game where you're like, what are you guys doing? You got a big lead. Don't let this guy. We've seen him come back. Don't let him start getting confidence. It was like, no, don't worry. We're not. And they picked him off 2 or 3 times in this game. They forced a fumble of him in this game. They were all over his ass. This Buffalo Bills team is legit. They're serious. They're not playing around. Look, it's time that you start considering Josh Allen for MVP. That's number one on my agenda list for the Bills. And two, it's time that you start recognizing the Bills as a power in the AFC. Like, I get it. You know, there were a couple of games this year where they had a chance to announce themselves as being for real, and they didn't do it. You know, and it was unfortunate what they did. I told you, that wasn't the Bills that I had come to know and love. That's not the Bills that I had seen. You know, they didn't. That wasn't a great representation of what they've been this season against Tennessee on a Tuesday night. It really wasn't. But, or was that a Monday? I lose track of some of these things. I just know that this team is legit. And I think if you put them up against Pittsburgh, they're going to fight. I don't know if they'll win, but they'll fight. And they'll be in that game. You put them up against Baltimore. I don't know if they'll win, but they'll fight. They'll be in that game. You put them up against Kansas City. We already saw that. They fought. They were in that game. And anybody in the AFC, you know, if they played Tennessee again, in Tennessee, I guarantee you it wouldn't turn into an ass whipping the way that it did. Especially, remember, that game was without John Brown. He makes a massive difference for this offense. He really does. I guarantee you it wouldn't be an ass whooping again. Guarantee it. Anyway, 44-34 ended up being the final in this game, but Seattle's got problems. I don't know if you're allowed to win a Super Bowl with a defense this bad. I don't know if that's possible. As much as I love Russ, and I love the weapons that they have around him for the first time in his career, you know, DK, Metcalf, and Tyler Lockett, and they're still trying to figure out something. They need to get healthy at the running back position. That will help a lot because Chris Carson is much better than DJ Dallas, and I think DJ Dallas will be fine over time, but he's not there yet. I think Greg Olsen is a good tight end, and you know all the other guys that they have out there. I think they've got enough stuff to do what they need to do offensively. This defense is just so bad, and you know there were excuses built in. Oh, we don't have Jamal Adams. Wait till he comes back. Well, he was back in this game. They got their asses whooped, and they had everybody pretty much healthy in this game. No excuses. You can't get to the quarterback. And this was the first week of Carlos Dunlap. But I told you I'm not a Carlos Dunlap guy. I don't really know if he makes a huge difference or not. We'll see. But they got issues. They got issues, man. They can't stop anybody. And the Bills took advantage of that. 44-34. Bills are now 7-2 on the season. Seattle is now 6-2. What effectively just happened is like the third or fourth best team in the AFC essentially just went out and beat the best team in the NFC, or the second best team, whatever you want to call them. Maybe the Saints are now your best team after what they did to Tampa. But essentially what I just took the third best team in the AFC, fourth best team in the AFC, and they just disposed of the best team in the NFC. So for whatever it's worth, that's where we at right now. Denver at Atlanta. This score doesn't really do this game any justice. 34-27 was the final. Atlanta wins. The Falcons dominated this game. At one point, it was 31-6 in this game. They were up big. In typical Atlanta Falcons fashion, they made it interesting late, but all they had to do was recover an onside kick, and they actually did it this time, and they hold on 34-27. Their offense had it going early into often in this game. Zacchaeus was big early. Julio was outstanding in this game as well. No Calvin Ridley, so somebody had to step up. That guy was Zacchaeus. OZ, as I call him, was out of sight. And the Broncos they didn't have enough. And they tried to make a run late, but like they did a week ago against the Chargers. But to no avail. They fall to 3-5 on the season due to the Broncos. Meanwhile, the Falcons are now 3-6. And as I talked about with Minnesota earlier, this is a Falcons team that could easily be the inverse of what they are. They probably should be the inverse of what they are at 6-3 now. They're 3-6. They should be 6-3. They should have beat the Dallas Cowboys. They should have beat the Chicago Bears. You could argue that they should have won against Detroit. Well, that's not an argument. They should have beat Detroit. if they could fall down at the 1 yard line or fall down at the 3 or the 4. Ample chances to fall down. No, I don't hear any bullshit about, oh, his momentum was taking him into the end zone. No, he had ample opportunities to fall the hell down, and he just forgot. He had a brain fart. They should be 6-3, no worse than 6-3 right now. Probably 7-2. If I go back in there and start digging around, I probably could find another game or two that they could have easily have won, should have won. Obviously, I don't think they would have beat Green Bay. They weren't going to beat the Seahawks in week 1. And I think there's one more loss in there that probably wasn't as competitive. Maybe that Panthers game, that wasn't a come from behind win or anything. They got dominated, even though they lost by 7. So probably 6-3 is where they should be. They should be undefeated under Raheem Morris. That's the biggest takeaway. Is they should be 4-0, not 3-1 under Raheem Morris. But here we are at 3-6. They're a dangerous team. It would not shock me in the least if these boys make a run at that 7th playoff spot. Same with Minnesota, because Chicago stinks offensively. So for all of those Falcons fans that dismissed this season, said it was over, not yet. Not yet. Now, you lost to Chicago, so if you get into a tiebreaker situation, that's crucial, but you beat Minnesota. So if you do get into a tiebreak situation with them, you own that advantage. But don't sleep on Atlanta. They can score, and teams that can score in this league are dangerous. And the Falcons are among the most explosive teams in football. And you got to pay attention to the Falcons because of what they can do on the offensive side of the football. They're now 3-6, and Denver is now 3-5 after the 34-27 win by the Falcons. Vegas at the Chargers. This was another fun one. AFC West family business. If these two teams said they ain't did it, then they ain't did it. But if they did, well, that's family business. And this was some really quality stuff here, man. I tell you what, this game is the epitome of what the Chargers have been this season. Just excruciating, man. You watch how they just find ways to lose games, and I feel for Anthony Lynn. I really do. I'm watching him agonize on the sideline. It's just tough. And so let's quickly go through this game. Raiders jump out to a lead early. Chargers storm back, take the lead, and then the Raiders went off on a little bit of a run. They start to kind of pull away. They go up 21-17 after I'm voting. Put my vote in right now for comeback player of the year. Or do they have a most improved player in the NFL? Because I comeback player is already Alex Smith. I don't know if anybody gets a vote other than Alex Smith for that. But if there's a most improved player, can we go ahead and give that to Nelson Agholor? By far and away, the Raiders have made the best one-year deal acquisitions of anybody in the league. Because right now, they're currently getting a steal on Nelson Agholor. And they're getting a steal on Devontae Booker. Devontae Booker is playing that backup running back role as beautifully as one can. And they're getting so much out of Nelson Agholor that it's not even funny. All right. He's turned the clock back to 2017. And he looks really comfortable in that Raiders offense. And so they take the lead 21-17, and then they go and score another touchdown, and now they're up 28-17, and you're thinking this thing's over. And typical Chargers, in typical Chargers fashion, they get a field goal, they cut it to 28-20. They get a touchdown. They go for 2. They don't get it to tie the game at 28. It's 28-26. They get a defensive stop. They got all the momentum. Remember, the Raiders were up 11. They had all the momentum. And then Uncle Mo got up, walked across the sidelines, and got on the Chargers sideline. And he was kicking back in the recliner and eating some chips. And he was just feeling good. And they had scored 8 unanswered. Or 9 unanswered, excuse me. They were down 11. Now that lead has been trimmed to 2 at 28-26. They force a punt of the Raiders. And KJ Hill, the rookie out of Ohio State, their 7th round rookie, muffs the punt. And I talked about this last night. They panned to Anthony Lynn, and he's like, you got to be effing kidding me, man. Seriously, dude? Raiders get a field goal out. The defense stands up because they give up a touchdown there. The game's over. You're down 9, need 2 scores. You don't have enough time. Defense gets a stop. Forces them to have to kick a field goal. It's 31-26. You got a shot. And their young rookie, Justin Herbert, takes him all the way down the field. And they throw with, I think it's 3 seconds left. They got 1 play left. They throw a fade to their tight end, Donald Parham Jr. If you're a Washington fan, that name should ring a bell. We had Donald Parham. All right? We had him on our football team, 6'8" tight end out of Stetson. And we let him off the hook. And he's been making plays for this Chargers team all year long. And I'm saying to myself, with all of the shit that we had, and remember, this wasn't this year's group. Last year's group with Gruden and company let Darnold Parham go. So, anyway, 6'8". He throws it up to him. Beautifully thrown football. Can't place it anywhere better. Great play by the defender there for the Raiders to stick his hand in between and fight. But it looks like it's a catch. It's called a catch. Touchdown. The Chargers all storm the field, and Anthony Lynn in the back of his mind is saying, this never goes our way. Guys, get back on the sideline. He's telling his team, get back on the sideline. Game's not over. Back on the sideline. We got to make sure this is legit. He wants to let himself go and be excited, but he knows we're the Chargers and we're snake bitten. And this is not how our story ever ends. You know, this doesn't happen to us. It always happens to us. This doesn't happen for us. He was right. He's watching the replay with the official right next to him. And he wants the official to give him some kind of, reason as to why this should stand. Like maybe they don't see it. But he's watching it and he says, shit, we lost the game. And he knows it. That's got to be the worst feeling. You go from the jubilation, the exhilaration of winning a come-from-behind game against a divisional foe that gives you a chance to continue to fight this year, to the lowest of lows of shit, it happened again. And it did. And the Raiders escaped with the win, 31-26. The Raiders deserve to win that game. I'm not going to lie to you. They're the better team. They're the team that has a chance to actually make the postseason. The Chargers don't. Don't stop somebody. And I know family members like to do this. If I can't go anywhere, why should you? That's the beauty of what family members do to one another. It's that whole crab in the bucket mentality. Where the hell you think you're going? Let me pull you back. You trying to crawl out of the damn bucket? Get your ass back down here. But the Raiders actually have a shot. They're not a bad team. Let them see what they can do. Don't hold them back. And so the Raiders get the win, 31-26. And they're now 5-3, right in the mix in the AFC playoff race. Meanwhile, the Chargers dropped to 2-6. And just as I said with Atlanta, and just as I said with Minnesota, they could be the inverse of what they are. You know, you look at their season to this point, and they could easily be 6-2. When you look at what they've done this season, they should have beaten New Orleans. That definitely should have been a win. Speaking of should have beaten New Orleans, Michael Badgley effed that one up. He missed a field goal early in this game, and they lose the game by 5. But if you do the math, he makes that field goal early in the game. All they need is a field goal late to win the game. So he's becoming a problem in Los Angeles for this Chargers football team. But should have beat the Saints. I keep contending that they should have beat Carolina. They were a winless team at that time. You can't let Carolina come in your house and beat you. That can't happen. But even if you want to give that one to Carolina fair and square, they won 21-16. Okay, you should have beat the Chiefs. You had them dead to rights and you let them off the hook. You should have beaten the Broncos last week. You can't let them do that to you. And then you let the Raiders off the hook in this game. So they could argue they could be 7-1 right now, to be honest with you, but they're not. They're 2-6, and they are what their record says they are because they can't find ways to win, and so they're now 2-6 after the 31-26 loss to the Raiders. Miami at Arizona. This was one of the games I was looking forward to in week number 9 because you're talking about two young quarterbacks, both donning one. Two guys that look extremely tiny on the field but are playmakers. Two guys that are the futures of their respective franchises, and two teams that are playing good football right now. And what we got was a shootout. This was a fun one. And it was 21-17 at halftime. Like, these boys was going at it. Now, 7 of the Dolphins' points, much like last week, came on the defensive side of the football. Their defense is playing ball. I told you. What they've done with the culture there in Miami, there should be some kind of case study that you bottle up and you share with other struggling franchises, because they got a new GM in Chris Greer. They got a new head coach in Brian Flores. And they came in and they cleaned house. You don't want to be here. This is what we're doing. You don't want to be a part of it. Let me help you get out of here. And we'll get as many draft picks as possible. We don't care if we drafted you in the first round last year. You don't want to be here? We'll get your ass out of here. Don't worry. You know, Kalen Ballage and Minkah Fitzpatrick and shucks. What's the other guy's name? Can't even think of his name. But they moved a bunch of guys. You know, a bunch of guys that didn't want to be there. All right, don't worry about it. We'll get you out of here. The running back for the Cardinals. Anyway, Kenyon Drake. They moved a bunch of guys. Kiko Alonso, all of those. You don't want to be here? Okay, cool. We'll move you. Got rid of all of the bad apples out of the bunch. Got a bunch of draft capital. Drafted a brand new quarterback. Fixed the offensive line. Went out and signed a bunch of guys in free agency that they were comfortable with. And they've turned this thing. Remember, at one point last season in 2019, we thought they were going to be 0-16. Let that sink in. There were some of the worst beatings we've seen a team take to start a season off in recent memory. I think the Ravens put up 59 in week 1. I think the Patriots turned around and put up a 40 spot the following week. Like, these were some severe ass thrashings. And we're sitting here laughing at the Dolphins, and they're going to go 0-16. And they turned it around last year, and it bled over to this year, and then they made a bunch of changes. They drafted a bunch of guys, and they went out and signed a bunch of guys in free agency. And now look at the Dolphins. They smacked around the Rams last week. They go to Arizona, who was on a win streak, mind you. Okay, this is a Arizona Cardinals team that started off the season 3-0. Then they lost 2 games in a row. And then they won 2 games in a row. And they went to Arizona and dispatched these boys. Got after Kyler Murray. Forced him to fumble. Scooped that up, running for a touchdown. Shaq Lawson scoops that one up for a touchdown. Tua was good. He wasn't great. He was good. I thought he could have been picked off 2 or 3 times if the Cardinals could catch. But at the end of the day, he didn't make that back-breaking mistake that the Cardinals were waiting for. The biggest story for me, there are a couple of things in this game that were a little head-scratching. One, how can DeAndre Hopkins ever go a full half of football without even getting a target? I need answers. That can never happen. But it did. 2, how do you miss a 49-yard field goal? Short? Indoors? I need answers. Like, I'm watching it, and I'm watching that football. I'm like, okay, it's tied at 34. Let's see what Tua does with this little bit of time he's got left. And then I keep watching. I don't know why I didn't turn away, because I thought it was good because it's right down the middle. So I'm thinking it's good. Who misses a 49-yard field goal indoors short? Nobody. Never happened. So I should have turned away, but I didn't. Something told me, just keep watching, bro. Just make sure it goes through the uprights. And I keep watching it. I didn't even need the officials to tell me it was short. I said, oh my God, it's short. And the officials look at each other, It's no good. And I'm like, did this chump just miss a 49-yard field goal short? Yeah, Zane Gonzalez just did that. And he's looking around befuddled, and he's like, I don't know what happened. How can you not know what happened? Unbelievable. That's just crazy to me. Couldn't wrap my brain around that. The Dolphins hold on the road, 34-31. Tua was good in this game. I love his mobility. His ability to get out. And it's just fun to watch a lefty out there. We don't have many of these. He's the first lefty to start an NFL game since 2016 when Kellen Moore started for the Cowboys. We don't do lefty quarterbacks anymore, so it's just refreshing to see a guy bootleg to his left, and he's not throwing across his body. He's supposed to naturally boot to his left. And teams are going to have to adjust to that. You know, the right tackle is really your left tackle because that's the blind side now. So it's just different. But and he threw some good balls in this game, too. You know, there was a deep ball on the first possession early in the game that he throws. I want to say it was to Preston Williams. Well, I'm saying, boy, there aren't many that throw a better deep ball. We saw that at Alabama than Tua, man. He's going to be a good one. He really is. But they're 2-0 with Tua as a starter. For those of you out there that said, what are they doing? Ryan Fitzpatrick, they're crazy. That's 2 straight. Now, I get it. They've been playing some really good complimentary football, and Tua's just not effing it up. But remember, we're talking about 50-50 here. All right, 50-50 is the kind of guy that could F it up. Now, he wasn't really doing that this year, but at any moment, at moment's notice, 50-50 could go off and throw 3 picks, and you lose the football game. And the reason they've won these last 2 weeks is because they haven't had that at the quarterback position. So, Dolphins are now 5-3. They're right there. They're hanging tough in the AFC East, 2 games back of the Bills. Meanwhile, the Cardinals, for the second time this season, riding a win streak at home, lose. Now, remember, early in the season, they lost to Detroit after starting the season off hot. And now, you know, you got another hot streak, and you lose to the Dolphins. You know, there's something to be said about home field advantage. There really isn't one this season. And we're finding that out with a lot of these good teams this year getting beat at home. It's really not a home field advantage anymore, at least this season. Steelers at the Cowboys. Wow. We got more than we bargained for with this one, huh? Steelers win this game 24-19. Now 8-0 on the season. Continue to be the league's only unblemished record team in terms of losses on the season. Still undefeated. Meanwhile, the Cowboys dropped to 2-7. But Garrett Gilbert played well. I tell you this much: if Garrett Gilbert had played the last couple of weeks, the Cowboys might have won one of those games. You know, maybe they beat Washington, maybe they beat Philadelphia. They definitely would have had a shot to beat Philadelphia with this kind of offensive performance because, and look, they only scored 19 points, but because the bar was so low, he not only cleared it, he knocked the bar away because they were so bad on offense the last few weeks. So they fought in this game, did the Cowboys, when nobody gave them a chance. This was the first time the Cowboys were double-digit home dogs since like 1990 or 89, or it might have been 2000. It's been a long time. Just know that. It's been a very, very long time since the Cowboys have been double-digit home dogs. And everybody was expecting them to get their brains bashed in, including me. I'm not going to sit here and act like I didn't, but I can tell you this. I told you something's off with the Pittsburgh Steelers offense. I told you that, didn't I? And everybody and their mama scoring on this Cowboys defense, and they couldn't. There was one play where Ben pulls the string on a throw on a 3rd down to I can never remember his name, number 18. I always forget his name. Deontay Johnson. He's wide open on a crosser, and Ben pulls the string on it. Like, something's off with this offense. And I keep saying I don't know what it is. I think it's Ben. Let's call a spade a spade. Something's off. Something's wrong with this offense, and I think the culprit is Ben Roethlisberger. There, I said it. I didn't want to say it, but I said it. But they're still winning games because they're elite on defense, and Ben's doing just enough. They got enough weapons out there that this shouldn't be the case. They shouldn't be eking by teams like Dallas. They should be blowing these kinds of teams out of the water. But it doesn't matter. They're finding ways to win. They did it again in this game. The defense stepped up late when they had to. Remember, this was the Steelers offense that just was struggling all game long. They could not get out of their own way. I mean, failed third down after failed third down after failed third down. It was ridiculous. And there were opportunities, ample opportunities. Ben got banged up right before half. You could argue, outside of the drive that gave them the lead, that the drive with him on one leg was his best drive of the game. He has a pump and go to Washington for the touchdown. But other than that drive in the first half, Ben was awful. And he did that one on one leg. So there's something there. But this defense, man, are they good or what? I tell you, man, this defense, when they need it, they get it. And Cam Hayward was exceptional down the stretch. Bud Dupree was good down the stretch. TJ Watt is good all the time. And they stepped up and they made plays. I heard Cowboys fans crying, oh, they were holding in the end zone and horse collar and hands to the face. Look, they didn't call some of those things, and some of those were definitely penalties. Especially the one in the end zone on the pick by Minka. That's holding. There's no other way to frame that. Joe Hayden was groping that receiver. That's assault in like half of the U.S. states. Felonious assault at that. You're looking at some serious jail time for that right there. So I get it, but you stink. When you stink, you don't get those types of calls. I'm sorry. That's just the way it goes. So it is what it is. At the end of the day, Steelers find a way to get it done, just like they did the week before, just like the week before that against Tennessee, just like they did last week against the Ravens. They find a way to get it done defensively. They got help from Tennessee with a missed field goal, but that's because the defense forced that field goal to be from 49 yards, and he missed. The defense stepped up last week twice against Baltimore. They preserved the victory. They stepped up twice here against Dallas and preserved the victory. 24-19. Remain unbeaten on the season at 8-0. Dallas might have found themselves a quarterback in the short term until Andy Dalton gets right. But they're now 2-7 with this loss. And then, of course, the Sunday night game. Not much more needs to be added. I don't even want to talk about the game. I did enough of that last night. I just want to talk about the aftermath of the game because I didn't talk about that last night because I hadn't seen any of that stuff. But Sean Payton dancing in the locker room. It's bad. First of all, 38-3 for those of you not in the know. If you were living under a rock, the Saints destroyed the Buccaneers. At one point, this game was 38-0. Brady throws 3 interceptions, looked awful in this game. They were out of sync. They pestered and harassed Brady. They couldn't get open. Could the Buccaneers receivers? It was a rough go of it. Yikes. Nobody saw this coming. This was total annihilation and domination. A thorough out-and-out NFC South family member ass whooping to the point where the authorities were called. And generally, as I mentioned last night, with these types of situations, you like to keep the authorities out of the mix. It's family business for a reason. We like to keep all of our business between the family. Don't involve outside parties. That's why it's family business. And most times people respect that. And because the noise was so loud last night and the beating was so egregious, people outside of the family had to call the local authorities and have them show up for this one. And generally, when somebody's getting slapped around in the family, we don't call the police because we don't want people messing with the family outside of the family. We handle internal matters ourselves. That's why it's family business. But this one was so bad that we had to involve the local authorities. It was bad last night. It was bad. It was really bad. I haven't seen one of these this bad with two good teams. We see ass whoopings all the time. We see bad teams get taken out to the woodshed all the time. We don't see good teams at home, at their crib, getting done the way that they got done last night. So much so that during a regular season game, Sean Payton felt the need to go dancing in the locker room. We got guys out here eating dubs and coaches dancing and shit. Wait a minute. Jameis went and ate the dub during the post-game presser for the little post-game Drew Brees interview. He came over, ate the dub, right? But then in the locker room, they dancing and they partying. He eats another dub, live on IG. That's 2 for Jameis against his ex-boys. He even got a little taste of this one. He got in at the end to be able to take the knees and do all of the stuff that winners do at the end of games. He got to do all of that stuff at the end of this one. Must have felt good for him. And Sean Payton's dancing. You let somebody come in your house and dance inside your house with dirty shoes on your welcome mat? Really? You got to make them take their shoes off at the door. They danced on your welcome mat. Then they danced all over your white carpet. And you know it was raining at Raymond James Stadium on Sunday. So you know their shoes was dirty. And they tracked that mud all up and down your house. And they were dancing the whole way. Dancing to the kitchen. Dancing all the way upstairs. Dancing on your bed. How dare you let them disrespect you in your house like that? I haven't seen anything like it in a very long time. That was very disappointing. We'll see how the Buccaneers respond to that, because that was bad, man. That was, whoo. I thought about calling the sheriff on that one. That was NFL's most wanted material right there. I started to call the sheriff. Somebody needed to be apprehended for that. Posters needed to be drawn up. They needed to be posted everywhere, on every telephone pole, every tree, every street and city sign. Wanted. New Orleans Saints. Anyway, let's wrap this thing up with garbage time. Look, I'm gonna make this short and sweet. This is garbage time for a reason. This is egregious. I want no parts of this. I don't know why they keep doing this. This is like the second or third year in a row we've had to endure Pats Jets on Monday night. Why do they think that this is cool? Why do they think anybody wants to watch this outside of those two markets? Nobody wants to watch this shit. Stop doing this to us. Nothing last year said that the Jets were going to be good enough this year to get this game again. And I know they finished up the season hot and this, that, and the third. They played some garbage teams. They played nobody good. They played some ass teams and they won some games. Nobody thought the Jets were going to be good this year. Why did you think they were going to be good enough to warrant a Monday night game? I don't know why. Stop asking. Bottom line is, we got to sit through this shit. The Patriots are 2-5. Are they 2-5? They're 2-5. They had a bye week, right? Well, I think they had the COVID situation and they missed the game a week or whatever. So yeah, they had their bye week, I think. So they're 2-5. The Jets are 0-8. This is a train wreck. Nobody wants to watch this. Are they 0-8 or 0-9? They can't be 0-9. We haven't played 10 weeks of football. They're 0-8. And they're horrible. I don't think Sam Darnold is playing tonight again. Like, even if you're a team out there and you're interested in Sam Darnold, doesn't his injury history have to scare you? He's never healthy. He's never playing. And he's out for crazy shit. Like mono. Oh, he ate a hot piece of pizza. He burnt the roof of his mouth. He can't play this week. He misses games for like the weirdest shit. He sneezed too hard. And now he's got an oblique injury. He's out this week. He displaced one of his ribs on a hard sneeze. He can't play this week. If you're really considering trading for Sam Darnold, because they're going to draft a quarterback, they're going to draft Trevor Lawrence more likely than not. You know, you got to think about, is this guy even healthy enough to trade for? I don't know. Maybe he is. But I just know tonight we got to watch the New England Patriots and the goddamn Jets. Who wants to watch this bullshit? Anyway, the Patriots are going to win because the Jets are awful. And I think we might have to get some Joe Flacco tonight. Yay! Jets and Patriots. Joe Flacco. Cam Newton. Yay! This game can't be over fast enough. Anyway, week 9 was a really fun week, and we're going to end it with a dud here. Maybe 2, because that ass thrashing we got on Sunday night was awful. And every time we do this on the show, the game ends up being really good. I don't think this is going to be one of those times. We did this the last time the Jets were on prime time when they were playing the Broncos. And we were like, oh my God, nobody wants to see this. 2 winless teams. Ooh, it turned out to be a really good game. It was entertaining. You know? We said, oh my God, the Eagles and the Giants, this is going to be horrible. Turned out to be a fun game. That's not one of these times. I can assure you of this. So, anyway, I digress. That's going to do it for me. Your man, Louie T. I thank you guys for joining me on the show. It's been a lot of fun, as it always is. It's week 9, and that means we're at the halfway mark. That's what this week signifies. 9 weeks in the books after tonight's game. It's going too fast. Slow down. Slow down. I just want to get to know you. Slow down, NFL. Soon we're not going to have this. And that's scary. But there's XFL football. Or was that last year? That was last year, wasn't it? Oh, yeah, it was. So, yeah, we'll be without football soon. I don't want to think about that. Anyway, I thank you guys for joining me. Make sure that you subscribe to the Louie Tee Network if you haven't already done so. Make sure that you hit that notification bell so you don't miss a thing. And also, hit that like button on the way out. Help support your man, Louie T. Don't forget, got merch, got hats, got hoodies, got T-shirts, got beanies. What you need, I got it. Support the Louie Tee Network. All right? Got the hats. You probably saw me wearing the camo one last night. I wore the black one, and you'll see all of this stuff. You'll see the beanies, all that stuff. I'll be wearing it on the pod. So make sure you support. I really appreciate you guys. Until next time, I'm your man, Louie T. This has been the Louie Tee Network Podcast. You guys take care of yourself. Be safe. And I'll see you on Wednesday. Louie Tee.